Hey, third grade friends, it's Mrs. Herbe. I hope that you had a great week, and I hope that last week you had a chance to listen to the story Counting Birds. And I hope that during the month of December, you'll have a chance to get out in your own yards or look out your window or walk around your neighborhood and kind of find or take notice of the birds that live in your neighborhood, and maybe even kind of keep track of them like they did in the story we read. And I hope you had a chance also to look at the PowerPoint and to look at all the different photos and to maybe try drawing some of the birds using the shape strategy that I showed you on the PowerPoint. What I was going to do before we get started with drawing our birds this week, I was going to kind of show you, if you didn't get a chance to practice, I was going to kind of demonstrate for you some strategies that you could use while you practice. So you can grab your sketchbook or just some regular paper, and I'm going to show you that first. And also another thing you want to have on hand this week we're going to use is this piece of watercolor paper. And this was in your bags that your teachers sent home to you last week. This is called watercolor paper. So it's kind of thicker and it has a little bit of a rough texture to it. And we are going to be drawing birds, and then we're going to be kind of exploring watercolor, which is going to be kind of fun. So if you want to go ahead, you're going to grab a pencil. If you want, grab a scrap piece of paper, and then we are going to do a little bit of practice, and then we'll get started drawing our bird on our watercolor paper. All right, guys, I'm going to show you two different strategies that you can use depending on the shape of the bird that you want to draw. You are welcome to print out the bird photos, any bird photos that you want, that as long as they're Pennsylvania birds that were in the PowerPoint. You don't have to necessarily use the photos that I showed you guys, but if you want to look at the PowerPoint, that first poster, it has a lot of different birds that are native to Pennsylvania, and you're certainly welcome to choose any one of those birds and Google the bird's name and then print out a photo, or you're welcome to just use any of the photos in the PowerPoint and draw them from observation as well. So these are two birds from the PowerPoint, and I'm going to show you two different strategies on how to draw them. So for this particular bird, when we were at school last week, I was talking to our friends at school, and we were talking about that there are just really some very few basic shapes that you need to know how to draw in order to draw a bird. And the first shape is a slice of watermelon, right? So I know that all of you can draw that shape because it's a smile. It's actually the letter D turned on its side. So we know that you can all make the letter D, so we can all make a bird's body shape. The second would be a circle. You know, you guys can all make circles. And the last shape, actually there's two more shapes. The wing shape is a ice cream cone, kind of, or a teardrop, or a raindrop. And then the tail shape is that shape, okay? And then we also know there's the triangle, okay? So if you can draw these shapes, you can draw a bird. So the first thing that you want to do when you go to draw a bird is you want to look at what is the angle of the line of the bird's back. Is it horizontal? Is it vertical? Is it diagonal? So when I look at this bird's back, I see that this line is a diagonal line. And so I'm going to start by drawing that diagonal line. So I'm going to move my paper over here a little bit. Let me make sure you guys can see. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw that diagonal line, and it is pretty much like that, okay? It goes from there down to there, okay? And then I'm going to draw the curve that comes out. Sometimes the curve is not quite as, it doesn't curve out quite as much, and sometimes it curves out more. So I'm going to look and see. This bird has kind of a, sort of a fairly large belly. So I'm going to kind of curve it out like that. So there is my slice of watermelon, okay? And then instead, this is super easy. So instead of worrying about drawing the head, all I'm going to do is I'm going to just curve. I'm going to take off the corner there, and then we kind of have this head part here. And if you want to make a little indentation here to kind of denote where the head is, you can kind of do that too. But there is my basic bird body shape, right? And then I'm going to look and see, okay, where does the curve of the wing start? And it kind of starts right around in here. So I'm just going to go ahead and draw that curve. I'm only drawing the first part of the ice cream cone, sort of just drawing the ice cream on the top. And then I'm going to add then the rest of the wing, and that's the part that kind of comes out like this, okay? So I added that, and then this particular bird tail is almost more like it goes out, and then it kind of comes back like that. Okay. I'm just going to make the wing a little bit longer. I'm going to make this diagonal line a little more like that. Okay, so there is the wing, tail, the bird's body, and then I'm going to take a look and say, okay, where is the eye? And the bird's eye is kind of right up in here. So I'm going to draw that. And then I'm going to add the bird's beak. I'm just going to erase that line there. Okay. And then I'm going to draw, okay, so it's a little bit darker blue. So I'm just going to draw that line that kind of comes around where the blue is. All right. And then the last thing that we're going to think about is drawing the feathers of the wing. And usually the way it works is that there's larger feathers are at the top part of the wing. And then as it goes down, then the feathers get a little bit smaller and thinner. Like that, okay? And there we have it. And then we're going to draw the bird's leg. So I see there's a leg right here. And then there's another leg that's kind of right in here. Okay? There's our bird. So that's bird strategy number one. If the bird has a sort of wider, shorter body, you can use this strategy. If the bird has more of a longer kind of body shape, I'm going to show you a different strategy to do that. So this blue jay would fall into that category. And there's a number of other birds that were in the PowerPoint, like this woodpecker would fall into that category. These birds would fall into that category. So in this case, we're going to draw the bird's body shape, but we're also going to draw the head and the tail and the wing. So what I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to look and see, okay, what is the angle, what is that line of the back of this bird's body? And it's a horizontal line. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to draw my horizontal line. Okay? And then I'm going to think about that curve for my watermelon. Okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down and around like that. Okay? And there is my body. And then I'm going to add, now in this case with the blue jay, the head is coming off of the body. It's not up here, but it's more straight across from the body. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to draw my circle. And it was a little too big at first, so I kind of, and you're going to I'm overlapping here with the watermelon shape. And then what I'm also going to do is I'm going to kind of smooth out kind of where these two connect. So I'm going to kind of make it look a little more professional. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to erase all this business that's right in there. Okay? And then the head looks a little bit more realistic. And then what I'm going to do in this case with the blue jay, the eye and the beak are kind of facing this way. So if I just put a little light line there, and then that way that shows me, okay, I can draw the eye, and then I'm going to go ahead and add the beak here like that. Okay? And then I'm going to look at the markings on the head, and it looks like there was a little bit of stuff here. And then kind of comes. Okay, and then I'm going to add the top part of the head. I might have gone up a little too far, so I'm going to try that again. I'm going to go up. Okay, and then and then I'm going to think about the rest of the bird. So I'm going to think about, again, the wing, and I'm going to draw the curved part of the wing first. So there's the curve, and then I'm going to add the part of the end part there like that. And then this bird, the tail kind of goes up like that, and I can kind of put it in like that. And then I'm going to also then draw the feathers for the wing. And again, they're kind of larger. Like that. And then the tail feathers. And there's a few feathers here. And then I'm going to add the feet. All right. And then any other markings, there's kind of like a And then just gonna make sure, yeah. And that's about kind of how the there. So that's so that's kind of the two different strategies for practicing drawing birds. And then what we're going to do is we're going to, so if you want to, practice in your sketchbook or on another piece of paper and kind of try to look through the PowerPoint and find a bird that you really, really can relate to, or that you think is really cool, or that you're going to enjoy working on, okay? And then once you have found that bird and you have kind of practiced drawing your shapes, and even if you just practice in your sketchbook just drawing the shapes, like practice drawing this and then adding the head. Sometimes it's tricky because friends make the head too small, so then you have to practice making the head a little bigger. Sometimes you have to practice which angle you're going to draw when you draw your diagonal line. Sometimes you're going to practice how big or how small you make the tail. Sometimes you might just want to practice making the curve of the wing. So it's okay to just kind of mess around and kind of, you know, draw roughly first without it being totally perfect until you get comfortable with everything. So once you've practiced, or maybe you already did practice and you feel like you're ready, then you're going to take your watercolor paper and you're going to take your drawing, and then we'll get started. So go ahead and find a reference photo or find one of the photos that you like, and then we will start drawing our bird on the watercolor paper. All right, guys, now we're going to get started drawing on our watercolor paper. Some things to keep in mind when we draw on the watercolor paper. You probably will want to draw very lightly when you draw your bird on the paper. You don't want to press too hard, because then if you need to make some revisions or changes, what happens is then it's hard to erase your pencil lines. So I have chosen a bird that I like. This is a Tufted Tit Mouse, which is kind of a funny name for a bird, probably because this guy has a little bit of a tuft, and I think the bird has some cool coloring with the white and the blue and a little bit of orange. Okay, so you can choose how you want to orient your watercolor paper, whether you want it to be horizontal or whether you want it to be vertical. And I think based on my reference photo for my bird, I think that I want to have my paper going horizontally, okay? And then the next thing that you're going to do is you're going to figure out where you want to orient your bird on the paper. And you want to make sure that you don't make your bird too small, so that you have all this background space, but you also want to make sure you don't make your bird too big that it doesn't fit on your piece of paper. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first, like we talked about when we talked about drawing bird our strategies for drawing birds, is I want to look at the back of this bird, and I see that the line for the back of this bird is a diagonal line. So if I drew that diagonal line really short, my bird is going to be really small. If I drew this line really long, then my bird is going to be bigger. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of try to figure out, I'm going to start maybe right about here, and I'm going to draw probably darker than you should, but I want you to be able to see my lines. So that's about how big I'm going to make my diagonal line. All right. So, and that sort of is kind of determining, that's about how big my bird will be. Now, obviously the tuft on the top of its head will make it a little bit higher. It's going to come out here, and then the tail is going to go here. So that kind of gives you an idea of of how big my bird is going to be. And it's going to be a fairly decent size for the piece of paper. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to remember back to my strategy, and I'm going to draw this bird has a nice big belly, so I'm going to have to draw a nice big curve out and then back. And if I feel like, oh, I drew it too curved too much, then what I could do is I could adjust it. And then I can erase the part that I want to adjust. But actually, I kind of liked it the way it was, pretty much. So I'm gonna go ahead and, so once you get that line how you like it, then if you remember the strategy that I talked to you guys about, when the bird is just sort of shorter and wider, then we round off the top part of this this corner here, and then I kind of have the whole bird's body shape. And then in this case though, my bird has a tuft on the top of his head, so I'm going to go ahead and draw his tuft. And then I'm going to go ahead and erase this line in between. And there we go. And then I'm going to kind of look and see, okay, that's looking pretty good. Then again, I'm going to look and see, where is this feather? Or not a feather, where's the curve of the wing, right? And it's kind of right, in this case, it's kind of like right in here, all right? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to draw that curve like we talked about first. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to draw the part that goes down like this, okay? Then I'm going to draw my bird's tail, which is going kind of down like that and down like that. And then I can also kind of curve around there. So there's that. And then I'm going to try to find, where is my bird's eye? And it is, I'm going to try to kind of see, okay, where, well, it's about right in here. So go ahead and draw the eye. And then I'm going to draw the beak. And so the beak is sort of directly across from the eye. So there's my triangle. All right. And then right above, there's a little bit of black here. And then kind of goes like that. That's kind of where the blue will be. And then I'm going to draw the feathers for the wing. And if I look closely, these are there's kind of some bigger feathers up here. And then as it goes down, it looks like the feathers get longer. And thinner. And then there's there's some more feathers down here like that. And then I'm going to go ahead and draw the legs. And there's the branch that's kind of right here. And then I'm going to draw the other leg, which is kind of like right here. Oopsie. Okay. And then after I have that drawn, then I can kind of see, do I want to, now there's a branch in this picture, and maybe you want to draw the branch sort of how it looks in the photo, or maybe you want to kind of improvise and draw it a little bit differently. So it's totally up to you how you want. Mrs. Herbie is just having a little bit of a hard time seeing how this leg is catching on here. So I'm drawing the end of that branch. And then I'm going to draw okay. And there you have it. So once you have your bird drawn, then that is all we are going to focus on this week, okay? So if you have any questions, feel free to check in on Friday, and I look forward to seeing what you've done. So I hope you guys have a great week, and I'll see you soon.